What's going on, Dream Starters? For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Mike Fallat. I own a company called DreamStartersUniversity.com, and I help entrepreneurs write books, and then I teach them how to use it as a marketing tool to get speaking gigs, attention, credibility, and leverage themselves as much as possible. What I'm going to be going over today is 3 reasons why I failed in my first 2 businesses. So in a sense, it wasn't my first and second business. It was the first 2 failures. So if you have any questions, comment it down below. I'll get back to you either tonight or tomorrow. My first business that I invested in was rental property, a 4-unit building. The second business, and that was successful because it was basically like buying a business. So you use the bank system, you use what was available, the capital they give people for home ownership, first-time home buying loans. So you use that to your advantage. But if you're starting a business from the ground up, nobody's going to give you money for that. If you find investors, you might be able to get some help from friends and family, which we did from investors. But for the most part, it's going to be really, really difficult. And so you kind of have to bootstrap yourself all the way from the beginning to start making some serious money to attract the right investors. And I'll tell you right now, there's 2 reasons why I failed in my first startup, and then my second startup was considered a failure because I let it go. I did make money in it, and it made enough that I could probably get by with $40,000, $50,000 a year. And for the amount of work I was doing, it just wasn't worth it. But I'm going to give you 3 reasons of why I failed. The first business, I'm going to explain to you in a little bit of exactly what it was. However, it was extremely, extremely complicated and very confusing. Basically, without getting into too much detail, it was a rewards program that connected many, many businesses. So pizza shops, guitar stores, bars, restaurants, many places were connected through this hub called Go Next World. And if you shopped at these businesses and showed them a card or you told the people your telephone number, they would reward you with Go Next World bucks, if you will. And you can use that on our website, which was gonextworld.com, that you could buy gift certificates, events, and different things. But whenever you're trying to educate the consumer and business owners on what you do, you're going to run into a complete nightmare of problems. So if you're trying to start a business, keep it extremely simple. Because I started up trying to become this big Steve Jobs, huge multi-million-dollar company when we only had a little bit of money. So we hired a bunch of lawyers, insurance people, and that cost pretty much everything. So we didn't have enough to really get off the ground. We wasted all of our capital on things that we didn't need. But it was so difficult to explain who we were and what we offered because it was complicated and it was confusing. Second reason I failed is because I didn't solve a problem. So after that business, I went into a company called Doggy Surprise. Doggy Surprise was my first successful startup business. I went to events, I went to many different places selling these delivery packages for dogs. It was like a surprise for your dog. Very similar to BarkBox, but in a little bit different spin. My cost per box was probably about $8 per box. I would sell it for $20. Pretty good money, right? I'd have to sell a ton of them, which I did. I sold quite a bit, especially on a monthly retainer. The problem was there just wasn't enough meat on the bone, and I wasn't solving a problem. So I was selling a product, or I wasn't solving a problem with a service. I was selling a product, and it was a nice little gift to people, but it just wasn't enough for me to live off of. So what I learned from this first business is keep it very simple. The second business taught me you better solve a problem if you're ever going to make any real money. And that business wasn't really solving anything. I was delivering all kinds of cool stuff for your dogs. Speaking of which, right here, this is one of them. And while we're at it, while I'm even thinking about it, if you post a picture of your dog below, I'm going to pick 5 of the cutest pictures and I'm going to send you one of these, okay? So if you post a picture of your dog below, and it's one of the 5 cutest, yeah, I'm going to be the judge on your animal if it's going to be one of the 5 cutest animals. And I'm going to send you some of the toys I still have hanging around. I have 200 of these things in one of my rooms, okay? 200. Yeah, maybe more. Anyway, I didn't solve a problem. And the third reason I couldn't get any sales for either one of those companies with big names is because I had zero credibility. So if you have zero credibility and you go into a business owner, for example, a small business owner in Pittsburgh is going to look at you and say, what in the hell is a 25-year-old punk trying to sell me on how to, run my business? Or I go to a big dog company, a pet food company, and they see this 27-year-old kid, 28-year-old kid, trying to tell them about how they can team up with me and we can change the world with Doggy Surprise. Zero credibility got me nowhere. Okay? Alright, so let me just show you my first business. Pizza store, guitar store, and let's just say restaurant. Okay? If I go in to any of these places and nobody knows who I am, then they're not going to give me even 5 minutes of their time. But if I present myself, I set up the lead in a certain way where I give them a bunch of stuff, I show them who I am. For example, I give them a copy of a book before I go and meet with them in person, whether I'm selling social media, whether I'm selling insurance, whether I'm selling real estate, or whether I'm selling a Go Next World Rewards program just like I did. You are going to have a little bit more attention and credibility before you walk in there. They're going to look at you completely different. And it goes back to your credibility. All you 23, 24-year-old people out there, I'm telling you right now, I'm 33. I look at you, because I was an entrepreneur at 23 years old. I look at you and say, this person has some value to offer. But the average 35, 40, 45, 55-year-old person does not have respect for the young entrepreneurs. And the reason why is because they just don't think they've been through enough. So what you have to do is create some credibility by putting down what you know in a book or something to give them that differentiates you from another person. And therefore, when you do meet with them, you actually have their damn attention. Okay? You actually have something to offer them because you are, quote unquote, an expert. Okay? So the next thing I want to tell you about, my life changed when I was sitting at a home show, I think it was. It was either a pet home show or it was a pet event or some type of home show. Anyway, I'm sitting there and I'm sitting in one of the booths. You ever hear of Virgil from WWE? Okay, so he's sitting at a different booth like across from me. All right, I get to meet Virgil. He talks about doing all kinds of stuff with different wrestlers and very interesting guy. I see him at the flea markets every once in a while. Very interesting guy. Anyway, to the next to me is this guy who runs a museum for illustrators. And he runs a Toonseum, it's called. Toonseum, like museum, but for cartoons. And he's sitting there, he goes, man, I really, really like your idea. I love this Doggy Surprise. You get to ship something to people's houses. It's like BarkBox, but you do it a little bit differently. Really love what you're doing, okay? The problem what you're doing with is that you're not an expert in anything. Nobody's going to listen to you. And I'm sitting there in a booth that I paid about $1,500 for. These event shows, they're no joke. You have to pay a lot of money for it. $1,500. And by the way, I put TV commercials in Pittsburgh, Comcast, spending $2,000 for a 30-day run. Wasted tons of money. Anyway, so I'm sitting with this guy, and he goes, you're not an expert. What you have to do to get any bit of leverage or credibility with the media, newspapers, big names, anywhere, you have to become somewhat of an expert. So if I were you, become the expert on dogs. Now, I don't know if I really want to be the expert on dogs at that moment. I know that my dog is pretty much the cutest dog I've ever seen in my life. So I just know that, and I like to give toys and treats to dogs. But I don't want to become the expert on dogs. Like, I don't want to be a veterinarian. Like, that's not me. I'm out there. I like to be a salesman, all that. But he said, in order to get ahead in life, you have to be somewhat of an expert. You have to know what you're talking about, regardless if it's about toys and treats. Where's your expertise lead to? And that bugged me for a couple days. And then I realized I don't want to be the expert in dog dog treats. I don't want to be an expert on dogs. I don't care for that, to take that many years of school or anything. It just didn't fit me. I love dogs more than people, pretty much. But I just didn't want to be the expert. And it really made sense to me. Whenever I started writing about entrepreneurship and business, what I wanted to become the expert in was marketing. My first love was marketing. First love back in, actually, I think Taylor Dunk was my first love. But my second love was probably like branding and the feeling, Richard Branson type stuff, where you put an image to a company and then you basically put your heart in that and people fall in love with your brand. So I fell in love with branding and marketing. And what I realized, in order to get ahead in life, this is it. This is all people care about in life. If you are the expert, you can get radio interviews, which I was able to get. I was able to get into different media sources. I was able to meet interesting people because I started becoming the expert on marketing or positioning yourself as the expert or writing a book in a fast, cost-effective way. So I started putting all this stuff together, and I'm able to help people and really dial in. But it didn't start happening. Now, Doggy Surprise fizzled out because my heart wasn't in it. I was making, if I would have kept going, probably about $40,000, $50,000 a year, which isn't much for the amount of work. So I wouldn't classify it as a true failure. But when you let it go, it's just like a relationship. It failed. So you move on to something else. Even though you learned a lot, you still go on to bigger and better things, making more money somewhere else. And so after that guy told me that, I don't even remember his name. I got to look this guy up. But he changed my life by telling me those 3 simple words. Okay, you got a great product. You got a great system here, man. I really love what you're doing. You're just not the expert on anything. So you're not going to go too far. You might make 40, 50 grand a year. You're just not going to get as far as you really want or think because you're not a specialty item yet. You're not a specialty entrepreneur. And it makes sense because if you think about doctors, there's a doctor, and then there's a surgeon, and then there's a surgeon who only does work on brains. So it's like he makes more money or she makes more money than the other people because they're a specialty item. The more specialized you are, the more it's going to be, you're going to be in demand with friends and family or clients or people who in very big corporations need a speaker. They want the expert. And so whenever I meet this guy right here, okay, I want to thank Ryan Kelly. Ryan, if you're watching out there, either now or on a replay, okay, thank you so much for sending me this book. If you guys are out there, take a look at Ryan Kelly. He's part of this book called The Journey to Success. #1, hot new release. By the way, he knows the game, it looks like. And it just talks about his life and what he's learned and basically positioning himself as the expert. So he understands. And so whenever I meet with people, I always reiterate, and you'll see it with other people now, I always reiterate exactly what those 3 words that guy told me. If you do not become the expert, you will never go too far in this world, no matter what you are. And that's why what you do, you should love it, but you need to specialize in something that you can really pour your heart into it and build this feeling that when people come around you or meet you, whether it's now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, they get this sense that #1, you love what you do and you care about people you work with, but number 2 and number 3, that you're the expert in it. You are the go-to person. My mom's cousin is a doctor, and it's funny. Whenever we used to get sick when we were kids, we would automatically just say, "Hey, call Barry up. Just call Barry. I don't know what this is. I got feeling a lump in my stomach. I don't know what the hell it is. Call Barry up. See what it is. See, I feel something wrong here." And he would make us feel all right over a phone call because he was the expert. He's the go-to person. So whatever you're doing, whether it's social media, insurance, real estate, The only way to really get ahead is to really study, write constantly, put blog material out there, keep putting posts out there, keep giving value, position yourself as the expert. And the number one way, once I wrote that book, Dream Starter, my life changed. And that's what I hope to do for you guys. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me. And I don't see any pictures just yet. There might be, but if you have any dog pictures, the 5 cutest, I'm going to send you one of my leftover doggy surprises here, okay? All right, so if you guys are also dog lovers, I'm with you on that. All right, so I might even send you something else down the road if you're a dog lover. Cat people, it's not my target audience, let's just say that. They're okay though, they're okay. If you have any questions, let me know. Remember, 3 reasons I failed. I was confusing and complicated, so you want to keep it simple. I didn't solve a problem, so you want to solve a problem with a service. Service you can really adapt to different areas. You can go all over. You can work through the computer. So keep it simple. Create a problem-solving service. And the third way, become the expert and position yourself as the go-to person in your field. And that's how you get credibility. Thanks so much, guys. I'll talk to you soon. Remember, guys, the next chapter is all that matters. Stay tuned.